What is up, Internet? Bloodieknux here, the Gothic Gamer of LV1 Gaming, with another wonderful review. You know, nowadays, the world of dating is absolutely hard. I was like, it's not the same as it once was, which was just going out and talking to someone. No, you got online dating and dating apps, and it's so much to go through trying to impress and meet someone online. But what if that wasn't the only thing you had to worry about? What if you had to worry about, I don't know, just the end of the world? Well, luckily, Eternights answered that question. Thanks to the team over at Studio Sai, we were given a code here to cover Eternights. In Eternights here, it is up to you to save the world from succumbing to an unknown virus, all while trying to, maybe, find love. Or not, you know. Dating is really your choice, and you have a plethora of people to meet here, all on your journey to try and figure out what it is you need to do. The game is very much all about pursuing love in the apocalypse, while also having a lot of anime-inspired actions here from games like Persona and others. So here, if you want to check out what we got down below, just stay tuned. And this is your spoiler warning. Now, the story all starts with an app. And what I mean by that is that the game starts out with you, the main character, talking with your best friend, Chani, as he hooks you up and trying to set up your dating profile on an app. And he's trying to figure out how you, as a person, would answer. He wants to let everyone know about you, what's your personality, what's your type. And depending on how you talk to him can go a different couple ways, but it's always an interesting interaction. And as you do this here and talk with him for a little bit, he sets up for wanting to hang out and go to a concert for one of the biggest idols out right now. Her name is Yuna. Well, after Chani leaves and you go to sit yourself down and decide to take a nap, or really go to bed, he sends you a link for another app here that's all about a personality quiz. And depending on how you answer, it'll match you with someone. After going through the quiz and giving your thoughts here, you're immediately matched with a rather lovely lady who wants to go out on a romantic yacht date with you. Unknowing about what a yacht date is, you just kind of go along with it. A couple days pass, comes the day of the concert and the day of your date, after y'all failed to get tickets here, only for there to be revealed that a new miracle drug called Eternights seems to have gone wrong. And an unknown virus starts sweeping across the city as well as the world and infecting people and turning them into bloodthirsty, murderous monsters. Safe to say, after seeing the chaos and everything else happen, you and Chani both head to a shelter to bunker down and find out what's going on. You'll keep track of the news and see that there's a giant wall that seems to have formed across the world and across the city, and y'all wait to find out more information. After a couple days, y'all realize that there's no further updates. The connection to the shelter is kind of waning, and y'all have no choice but to leave. After leaving and trying to explore the bunker where y'all were hiding, it looks like it has slowly been overrun by other monsters, as some of the other shelters within the bunker have completely either been killed, emptied, or anything else. And during y'all's search, you end up running into two other survivors, which happens to be Yuna, the pop star, and a girl with her by the name of Lena. After y'all speak and figuring out what the next steps are, y'all try to make a break for it and go seeing if y'all can't find help. Upon running into what is thought to be a police officer, turns out to be a monster, and right before y'all's very eyes, Lena is absolutely decimated. And I don't hold back on that when I say she was decimated. After running away and trying to figure out what to do next, y'all end up getting caught by an individual by the name of Dahlia, who has been going around and cutting off everyone's right arms. After having your arm cut off, you pass out and end up meeting with the lovely lady who we had that yacht date planned, who turns out to be one of the great creators of life, known as Lux. letting you know here that the world is in danger due to her sibling, Umbra, trying to steal what is called the stone. The stone is what allows whichever of the creators has it to be able to make changes to the world as we know it. She personally loves humans and doesn't want anything to happen to them. However, Umbra feels differently, and if they're able to awaken the stone, all life as we know it will cease to exist. So she gives us the ability to be able to change that by giving us a brand new arm, although it's not exactly the arm that we knew. Nope, she gives us the power to create anything that we can think of with our mind, being able to transform our arm. However, it is now just a giant hand of glowing pure energy. But you know what they say, no arm, no problem. With the fact that it can shapeshift to anything that you can think of, we immediately go to town and create a sword to be able to protect ourselves in the group that we now have. After escaping the clutches of Dahlia and slaying some of the monsters in between us, we meet a drone that tells us, hey, there's safety on a train that we need to get to, only to arrive and see that there's no one else there besides us. We meet Arya, one of the people who are helping to run the train with as an organization, who lets us know that currently the end of the world is nigh and it's up to us to help kind of save it. The only way to do that is to tear down the walls and try and find the stone and prevent it from being awakened. She's also spoken with Lux and is trying to help her to be able to stop Umbra, as that's the only way to ensure that humanity survives. Now, if this story sounds absolutely wild, that's because it is. I was like, it goes from 0 to 100 in no time flat and kind of just throws you in the deep end while using so many different tropes of all styles of games, mainly from a lot of anime inspirations like most shonen tropes and anything else. Of course, that's perfectly fine. There's a semi-seriousness to it because while there is the fact of, hey, you're trying to save the world, half the time the characters don't take things as serious as they do. They break up a lot of the seriousness with just the right amount of drama and humor and levity. The writing is actually very well done. It is phenomenal for what it is. I was like, it makes all sorts of jokes that could be just cringy and is not afraid to just dive into the toilet humor. I mean, they absolutely know exactly what they're doing and they're aware of the story that they're telling, and it makes it very phenomenal with everything. And this isn't just from the beginning. This is from as you meet the other characters too. You start off between you, Chani, and Yuna as your main group, and then you meet other survivors such as Min, who is a very timid, scared runner who watched her whole team suffer, as well as you also meet the science-obsessed know-it-all, Sia, and then there's also the immortal, too good for himself, Johan. All these characters have so many different diverse backgrounds and personalities that it's always interesting to see how they all kind of polarize with each other, and it all plays into the story as things go on. Now, the graphics of the game is one thing that I absolutely loved here. It's in a weird spot because the style is very heavily anime inspired here during a lot of cutscenes, and that's from whether it's animated or even during certain interactions where it's using a still image, but the art is absolutely beautiful. It's highly detailed, it's wonderfully rendered, and you can really see the anime aesthetic kind of stick out, and I love that. However, the rest of the game here really kind of lays into the fact of the over-exaggeration of facial features, even if sometimes the way that the characters move around is a bit janky at times, and they move around kind of weird. It still is very enjoyable to look at here. The over-exaggeration really helps to sell the aesthetic that it all is trying to sell. However, the biggest part where it kind of can backfire is the fact that the game doesn't always utilize this very well at points, and to be fair too, the game is also very dark. Even with adjusting the brightness a bit here, the game is just very, very dark. And if you increase it too much, then you create like a washed out effect here, or the colors don't look natural or well. It focuses very heavily on the use of neon signs and other lighting to help kind of guide you around, but there's times where just areas are just naturally too dark, and it's hard to kind of, one, get your bearings, as well as the fact of that it makes things look very weird because it's either too dark because it's night, or it has this washed out yellow tone because of the fact that the day cycle is like a perpetual sunset. Basically, I was like, you're getting all that red from just the overview of the sun, right? It's not bad. It makes it feel and look very weird at times. But when it's done well and in those right circumstances, it looks great. It really does. And that's why I really hope that they do more. Possibly one of the biggest issues is because it could be on the Unity engine. However, the developers have already stated that they're going to be using Unreal going forward. So I'm not going to fault them too much for this because it's still enjoyable. It's just very apparent. And now for the sound. The sound design in the game for Eternights, for me, is probably the one where I feel is the weakest. And that's mainly because of the fact that the game is very quiet. Outside of being mainly on the train and in certain boss fights, there's not a lot of music or background noise. You mainly hear the sound of your characters running around and the footsteps. But outside of that, there's not a lot of music. There's some during some cutscenes when you're hanging out with some of the crew and everything else here, and occasionally during some of the nighttime interactions and stuff like that. However, outside of that, there's just a lot of quiet in the game. And for me, sound design, and especially when it comes to background music, really does play a big part on being able to help set the mood and tone of a game. And that's just not here. Don't get me wrong, where they have the music during those fights, it's nice. It can sometimes not sound as exciting as it is because of the fact that even when you crank up the sound, then it just kind of gets washed out with how loud the combat sounds are here. So it's kind of a weird balancing act. But the one part where the sound is significantly saved is in the voice acting. The voice acting for the characters is phenomenal. Everyone really shines through with the personality that they're trying to portray for each character. And that's what makes it feel more authentic. And I love it. I was like, Chani really comes off as the jovial, immature, childish best friend that you've known your whole life. Yuna is that good girl who's also really kind of acts kind of bad just because of the fact that, you know, that's what she can play as, but she's very adorable in that. You know, Min is very much a timid girl. She's over enthusiastic because of the fact that she gets so embarrassed easily, but it really shows in the way that she acts. And Sia, woman is too passionate about science, and it shows, and it's perfectly portrayed. And it's always interesting because of the fact that you have that very matter-of-fact kind of attitude that comes through in the voice. Each of these characters really show off their personality, and that's not accounting for the other characters that you meet, you know, such as being your train conductor slash support from Arya, or even Lux, one of the gods that you meet, and everything else here. There's just so much that's well done with the voice talent that kind of help offsets where the sound design is lacking. It doesn't save it because of the fact that it's hard to make up for the lack of music or anything else for having a quiet game, but it definitely does help give it a lot more breadth and impressiveness where it needs. And lastly is gameplay. And as y'all know, I always say gameplay is always king. And that is never going to change. In Eternights, there are many different inspirations in the game that come from so many other contemporaries amongst it. The game very much is open about taking that. It takes a lot of inspiration from Persona, and it does. It has a very dedicated day-night cycle with a time management aspect that also plays into the dating and romance aspects of the game. However, each day also has it split up for what you can do during those times, just as it does in Persona. During the day is the time that you can go to the dungeon, or you can choose to hang out with some of your companions on the train. You're able to go exploring with them, go spend time with them, or even if you need to boost your stats, because there are a social stats to be worked on, you can also train with them during the day. However, at night, you're no longer able to go out to the dungeon or hang out with them. However, you are able to hang out with them in another form. You are able to still continue to train with them to focus on building your bond and being able to increase your intimacy with each character. However, you would also have the option to scavenge. Now, each of the characters has a set of needs that they need to get taken care of, so they may ask you to go journey out with them into the city to kind of scavenge some items that they're needing. You know, sometimes they may need you, I don't know, to get a hairbrush, maybe they need a new toothbrush, maybe they need pillows or blankets, more hygienic products, and other things of that sort. You never know what anyone's going to ask you for here. However, the game does let you see what potentially they will ask for later on, but when they'll ask it is all dependent on how many times you've gone scavenging with them. And each scavenge has set items in each location. So each time you go out, it helps you to be able to memorize where items are, so that way when you go to them in the future, you'll remember. And it'll help make your night goings a little bit more structured and a little bit more less wasted. Let's just go with that. Now, along with that too, as you spend time with them during the day, you'll be able to increase your rank with each individual character, which will then allow you to be able to add new stat bonuses. While the game is very much an RPG, it's RPG light. It has certain RPG elements, and it's not going to be as in-depth as something like Persona or any other contemporaries. However, it is going to have some aspects, mainly the fact that you'll have your HP, you'll have your defense, you'll have your attack stats and stuff like that, and that can all be increased based on how many times you spent with certain people, whether you've done their scavenging at night. Sometimes you can get extra by occasionally training yourself with each character and doing their specific training, such as Yuna, who teaches you about breathing exercises, or Sia asks for your assistance in dividing cells that she's running tests on and stuff like that. Here, each one offers you different increases, as well as also providing you with an upgraded material called White Essence. White Essence is what you'll actually use to be able to buy some of the new stat bonuses and new abilities that unlock from each individual character. So each character gives you access to either new elements, new special attacks, or maybe able to offer you other abilities, such as whenever you finish a combo, you can get health back. You can get your magic or SP back, other things like that here. All that ties into, as it's also based on their rank. As well as for your personal stats, you use what's called Black Essence, which you can find while you're out in the dungeon or from fighting stronger enemies, and that's what you'll use to boost your own stats and your own attack damages and things of that sort. Now, each act has a set time period that you're going to be focusing on, as each one has a set date that you have to achieve and finish what needs to be done. So say that one day they say, hey, we have 5 days, because in the very first act, they're like, someone is trying to hack our train, and if we don't stop them in 5 days, they'll be able to hack the train, and that'll be the end of it. So you can do anything within those 5 days here, as long as you make sure that you go to the dungeon and finish it and beat the boss there before that last day, because if not, game over. But Each one is very much segmented into several days here. That does allow for you to be able to manage your time and how you want to improve with each character, so on and so forth. And as you kind of go through that here, it does add a lot more. As for the enemy variety, is quite a bit of different enemies, although sometimes they are variations of very similar ones. You may have fast-moving enemies that are very much the up-close melee. You have the really weak ones. Then you may have one that has a melee weapon. Some that may be slower. You start having different long-range enemies. So one that may only shoot one projectile, while another can shoot 3, or make little AOE attacks and stuff like that. Then you start meeting characters or enemies that have shields that you have to use heavy attacks to mix into, or maybe have to have their defense broken using the elemental burst from the abilities of the main character, as well as the magic that's provided to him from the different girls to be able to take out specific elements. A lot of that is really mixed in, and while there is not a lot of variety in the combat, and the fact of when it comes to like the combos and the things that you can do, it is very kind of short with the amount of combos. It's more about how you're able to mix and chain everything together, because you start unlocking new abilities, such as one of the moves called Stinger, which allows you to do a dashing charge, which helps to give you a bit of distance. Or you'll unlock an ability such as Blast, which will be able to create a projectile slash across the send out towards enemies. Or you can even do what's called Sword Dance and create swords around you. Being able to chain all those together, attack a combo and use one of the special combo finishers, mix in with the burst ability of using your charged elemental fist and stuff like that. It really is a nice mix, especially when you use some of the skills that the girls offer you, like Min being able to create a barrier around you or be able to push enemies away, or Sia being able to slow down enemies or shoot ice projectiles. Every little bit plays into how you're able to mix those together and make your own sort of combos depending on the time. And I think that's what makes it so enjoyable, is that there is a lot of variety in the way that you can chain things together, even if there's not a lot of different moves or combos itself. Overall, the game is absolutely fun. I enjoyed my time with it. Yes, it was janky. Sometimes it was a little bit weird to handle at times, or things didn't move the way that I was hoping that they would move. But overall, my time with the game was absolutely enjoyable and fun, and I loved every aspect of it here. It all boils down to the fact of that the writing and the characters are phenomenal, as well as the combat can be very much fun. Throughout my complaints here, it still was an enjoyable experience, and that's what it needs to be here. The game knows exactly what it is. It's cringy, it's over the top, it's funny, it takes a lot of inspiration from anime, it uses the humors, whether that's slapstick at a lot of times, and other times they use cringy toilet humor. And honestly, the game very much embraces the fact that they're cringy and horny in the best ways. I don't know how many times they made so many jokes that left me dying, because they're not afraid of internet culture and just how over the top horny people be. And sometimes that's all right. You need a lightheartedness to everything. So with that being said, if you want a fun game here within a Persona style experience without the dedication of hundreds of Persona style hours, this game is definitely well worth checking out. If you want to play it for yourself, it is currently out now on PS4, PS5, and PC through Steam and the Epic Games Store. And I do want to thank again the team over at Studio Sai for sending us a copy and allowing me to be able to share my thoughts with you. And if y'all enjoyed it, make sure y'all hit that follow button and subscribe here and show all the support to the team. And make sure you check out any of the other reviews that we have here on the channel. But until next time, I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of y'all day. And remember, y'all can always level up here at level 1. Till next time, everyone. Later.